And we're live.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for October 21st. And I call the meeting to order. In open session, you have been sent the agenda, and could I have someone move approval of it? Or are there any additions or deletions or anything that people want to do? Hearing none, could I have someone move the
I'll move it.
Acceptance of the agenda? So Councillor Huntley, thank you. I'm just making sure I can see everybody here. A seconder, please.
I will.
Peter Ramsey. Thanks. All in favor, hands high. Carried. Thank you. And item 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Hearing none, move on to item 5, which is a closed session, which we're not having. So moving on to item 6, the minutes of the meeting held on September 23rd, which again have been sent out to you. Any corrections, anything that needs to be changed in the minutes?
Through you, Chairman Ross, I do notice that I have Bruce Lepper as in attendance and he was not. So I'd like to make an amendment to those minutes to move him down that he was absent.
Okay, so the minute says corrected. Could someone move acceptance of them?
I will, Rob.
So, okay, I see Ashley's hand was up before your Peters, but I'll count you as the seconder then. So moved by Ashley Stewart.
She got up earlier.
Okay, well then moved by Peter, seconded by Ashley. Is that acceptable? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Good. I have to warn you that my sight isn't that great. I have a cataract in one eye, so if I miss something, please tell me. I'm going to have to get magnifying glasses or something. I don't know what it is, but even the readers don't help. But it's we'll struggle along here. And since I can't go to my optometrist, anyway, that's another story. So back to the agenda. So any business arising, we put this in as a sort of standard item, but Madam Secretary, is there anything that we need to discuss from or were we going to cover everything else in terms of the reports and business? Or I open it to the meeting. Is there any business arising that people can see from the minutes? Yes, Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair. I guess, I mean, we had the discussion around the tree at one Kingston or one Union. I forget what the address is now. I apologize. Is there anything follow up from that, or is there anything we need to discuss from that, or is it just left open?
Isn't that on the agenda, or am I mistaken? Later on.
You, Chair,
if
I can jump in. It is. Yeah, and I do have an update, Ryan. So
my apologies. I guess
no, that's fine.
I guess it's a debate on whether that shows up as a business arising for minutes or general business.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's Madam Secretary, we have business arising simply to catch things that might not be in the minutes. Is that correct?
Or items that we've added under general business for discussion. Yeah. So right. I was saying to Mr. Ramsey prior to the meeting, we did have the preliminary discussion with staff about a potential either display case or storyboards or something at the CMCC. So this would be the opportunity where we would just advise or bring the committee up to speed that it is at preliminary discussions, and hopefully at the next meeting we'll have a better update as to if it is an option to have some form of heritage recognition in the CMCC. So this is just a placeholder. If there's anybody on the committee that has reviewed the minutes and has anything they want to bring forward that is not as a general item of business.
Okay, so that being said, that's very helpful. Thank you. Anything that people have?
I guess I read the minutes and not the report, or not the agenda.
Oh, welcome to the club. Okay, well, hearing nothing, then I guess we can move on to reports. So item 8.1, BIA update from Heather Clark.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so BIA is doing great, I think. Our festival was a great success. I hope some of you were able to get out for a walk that day and check it out. It was a beautiful day. Yeah, so that was a great success. We stayed under our budget after all said and done. Now we're looking forward. We have Get the Spook on October 30th. If you have any kids or grandkids, bring them on out for trick-or-treating in the stores. Costumes, of course, to be worn. And yeah, and then we've got Christmas in the Village coming up December 2nd. So that's looking forward to that. And of course, we're working on the 2022 budget. So that's a lot of fun. I'm learning that. And yeah, everything's looking good, I think, in my opinion.
Good.
Any questions?
No questions, just kudos. Kudos to Fall Festival. Our family went, a lot of our neighbors went. Really appreciate that community sort of gathering in a time where it was so much needed. So thank you and kudos.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we stayed within our safety plan, and I think everyone, that there was mask wearing, there wasn't, if we were, far enough away. It's really what your comfort level is too, but I haven't had any negative feedback. There's always one or two, but it's nothing detrimental, that, in my opinion. So it was a great success.
Very
I
good
think,
event.
I think the beer garden was a big success too, and it was a good addition.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much, Heather.
Awesome.
Moving on to item 8.2, the financial report. Ms. Ayotte.
Sorry, I had to find my mute button. Cindy, would you mind if I share the budget report? Oh, God bless you. Just give me a sec. Okay, can you guys see it?
Not yet. At least I
That's
can.
because I have to hit the share button. Welcome to the world of Zoom, Bridget. So this is the, as I think was requested at the last meeting, the committee had wanted to see kind of like a budget versus actual comparison report. I think this is what you were looking for, but obviously if you need more detail, let me know and I can do that. Not a lot that I think is telling you that you don't know. We did some landscaping, and I do have a breakdown of what that is if committee wants to see it. Otherwise, yeah, this is our financial report. And if you have any questions, fire away.
Would you mind just enlarging it just a tad?
Zooming in?
Yeah, it's just a little hard to read. Yeah,
I
especially
was
for
going
me.
to say the same thing.
Yeah. And I'll have to remove my.
Is that good, or do
And
you
look
need
in,
one
oops.
more plus?
One more for me.
One
at
more
anyway.
for good measure.
That's
There
better.
we go. Okay, how's that?
Much better. So you're looking at my head.
Yeah. I think maybe we need to speak to the deputy treasurer to increase the font in the Keystone report. Good luck with that.
Okay. Yeah, now I can see. Just.
Bridget, through you, Chair, maybe you could walk the new people to the committee through how to read the report. I mean, these public reports, like public entity reports, are a lot different than what most people are used to seeing. So maybe you could kind of help describe what we're looking at here.
Sure, absolutely. I will try. I'm not a finance person, so I sometimes get lost in these too. But so the revenue line is we had a transfer from our reserve to cover the salaries we were going to hire somebody to do a heritage bylaw review. That's still on the plan. So this will be a rollover, but that obviously is a revenue item. So that's what we're looking at here. Your expenses, we've got, I'll just move up here. So we budgeted in 2021 for awards for the Heritage Awards. Obviously, COVID has muddled with a bunch of things for us, a bunch of projects. So we haven't actually spent those funds. So we haven't really received any nominations. I have put it out in the paper. I have put it on the website, but I still haven't received any nominations. So we will roll that over. The landscaping, I'm going to just, that was for some trees that were
Wow, it's even
planted,
smaller.
supplies. What did I do?
It's even smaller.
It's smaller,
Oh.
yeah.
There we go. How's
That's
that?
better. Ah, much better.
Okay. So there are 3 items. You know, Peter was working really hard and did some planting of trees and supplies around the Dale Monument. If we go back, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Our special equipment and materials, that was, sorry, I don't mean to flip around, but that was from Merit Home Hardware. And I believe, Peter, that was for the kind of the planter boxes. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. Advertising, we didn't allocate any money because the only advertising we do is for the awards, and we factored that into the 500. And the contracted services, that is funds to hire. We budgeted 13.5 for a part-time position, I think it was, to review the heritage bylaws. And that again will be rolled over for 2022. So I hope I've kind of given you a good overview. Ryan, I'm looking for you to.
Yeah, so I guess for the sake of, you know, simplicity, I mean, really what we budgeted, what, almost $5,000, sorry, $4,000, and we've only spent 500 is really what it came down to this year. I mean, excluding that, the hire to do the municipal bylaws.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But an unusual year, and
Yeah.
presumably council understands that, and
Yeah, obviously I do.
Yeah.
we'll
and-
understand.
Yeah, but
And we're
I
not
guess the
unique.
question was there not, and I think this question is more to Ms. Page, out of the $2,500 for special equipment, was there not something that was going to be done to those monuments, or was that coming out of the clerk's budget and not this budget?
Through Chairman Rust to Councillor Huntley, the $2,500, and we spoke with this at the last meeting. I think we were going to try to get some committee members just to go have a look at the Ebenezer and Springville to see if we felt there was any need for restoration. That's what that work is for. Trevor from Campbell Monuments is going to give us a quote on replacing the ball at the top of the Dial Monument, the globe, or I'm not sure exactly what the actual title of it is because it has a crack in it. So if we can get the work completed in 2021, we can use the remaining funds of that, is what I understood as I went through my first budget session yesterday. So, but the work actually has to be completed, not just invoice. So weather permitting, I do believe Campbell Monuments is going to try to get something going on the Dial Monument itself. But if we can get a couple members to go and have a look at Springville and Ebenezer, then we can use that money if we need it. If not, we've just left it as a placeholder to have the restoration work done next year. So basically the way we have set it up with Campbell Monuments is that because of how delicate the monuments are and how old the grave markers are, to do it every year doesn't always make sense. So ultimately that whitewashing does eventually start to eat away at the stone that it's made out of. So the budget is to do it every other year unless there's a break or some maintenance or something that specifically has to be done. So I do like to carry the money just in case something happens or if we need it as a one-off. But if we can look this year again, just to double check that nothing needs to be done, then we'll ask for that money to be rolled over to carry forward for the Dial restoration of the big monument.
Yeah.
Do we want to set up a visit after this meeting before the snow flies, or this year, or are we holding?
I think we should, and honestly, I would like to participate in it. I speak a lot about these cemeteries. I've never seen them, so not that I know a lot about exactly what needs to be done there, but I have no problem helping to coordinate a meeting. And maybe Peter, you could come, or Karen, and we can just kind of go and look, unless there's other members of the committee that would like to do that as well.
Okay,
I would like to go, sure.
good.
I would like to go as well.
Okay,
So-
so if you're okay with this, Chairman Ross, what I'll do is I'll just reach out to everybody and just look at the schedules for Peter and yourself and Karen, and or Ashley, if any, or Heather, if anybody else wants to participate, and we can safely go and look at a social distancing, and we'll look for the nice day when the sun is shining, which there will be one. We're not settling in for fall quite yet, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we can get over there to do that.
Okay, great. Anything more in terms of item 8.2, Ms. Ayat, or any questions? Okay, so hearing nothing, I think that means we can move on to general business. Item 9.1, 2022 budget discussions. That is, they have now begun. So who would like to fill us in?
So Cindy, did you want me to pull up the budget, or did you want to speak to it? We both
Yep.
kind of had a meeting with
You have-
Kimberly.
you
I
more
have
than
it
welcome
here. Yeah.
To pull it up.
Yeah.
We had preliminary discussions for preparation for first draft yesterday with the director of finance as well as the CAO. And at first draft, everything looked okay. We did learn a little bit. We understand now where our items fall. So as a local board and authority, we don't carry capital items. We carry all of our stuff in operation. So the request that went in for capital for the signage for Springville, Ebenezer, and Dial has now been rolled into our operating budget as the request.
And I think the mural project, just to update you guys on that. So I did apply to the Rural Economic Development Fund for some matching dollars. When we spoke at the last meeting, I thought it was a 50-50 contribution, but that particular stream is only 70-30. So with our contribution of 7,000, we would be eligible to apply for 2,100. Which is still something. So I did apply. So hopefully we will hear back from them and be successful, and we can add to our mural fund. You won't actually see it in the operating budget going forward for the board and committee. It is considered a capital expense, I believe, because it's over 5,000. So that's Kimberly captured it in the capital budget. So
I think Nina has a question then.
Yes.
Sorry, me again about
No, please, go ahead.
the size. Is it possible to just enlarge the document just
yeah, sorry.
So through you, Chair, to Bridget, I mean, there are items on here, obviously, like the CIP stuff, like that actually falls under your economic.
Yes, it does.
Not Mr. Hack budget, right?
Mhm.
Right. So these
we kind of have to look at two different budgets, one that's specific to the board and one that's kind of board sponsored, I guess.
Yeah, or board led, I guess. The way I kind of see it, and going forward, what we're going to do is consolidate the 2019, 2020, and 2021 CIP incentive program, because their program specifically under the Millbrook CIP. So we'll consolidate those lines to capture any rollover or new projects, but it will go forward under the ECD capital budget. Because it is an ECD function, it's typically over $5,000. And I mean, these are rollovers this year. So because obviously COVID interrupted a lot of the projects. The 2021 township-wide CIP, you'll probably see that one come off just because it's not led by this board. We do certainly want representation. I didn't get any takers on my email, so just kind of putting that out there. If somebody would like to participate in the advisory committee for that project, that would be great. But yeah, going forward, you'll only see 2 lines and you'll see them under the ECD budget. Does that make sense?
Councillor Huntley, does that make sense to you?
It does. I think the question would be kind of where, is there a breakdown of where the CIP is sitting in terms of, what's budgeted, what's spent, what's outstanding, what's due? Like, it's very hard to tell where the program is just by having the same numbers on the page, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I can provide you a little more detailed breakdown on those projects at the next meeting, if that's what you would like. I can kind of speak to the 2019 CIP projects. We have 2 that are still outstanding. So we've given them an extension just because the one is a heritage well, they're both heritage buildings, but one, she has hired a heritage contractor, and she initially ran into trouble finding a heritage contractor, which delayed her project. Then COVID hit and it delayed it again. And now what she's running into is the contractor has just been backed up. So all the contracts that he was scheduled to do, he's working through them, and it's pushed her back further. So we've given an extension. So right now it's sitting that we have about 14,000 of that 60,000 project that is still to be allocated. The projects are still to be done. And that will probably be, we probably won't see them submit any expenses for year end this year. We'll see them next year. Same for the 2020 CIP incentives. We have had some projects completed. They're kind of coming in now. So that number will probably go down, the 16,279.80. As I did get some wrap up yesterday and some today. The 2021 CIP incentive program, that just went out. We're in the process of reviewing applications. So it hasn't been allocated. So council will see a report coming forward with the successful applicants. And that'll be rolled over to 2022, because obviously it's from the date that they get approved for a full year. So, and then the township wide obviously is to actually complete the project, and that's the township's contribution. It was matched by rural economic development funding. It's a $30,000 project to hire the consultant to expand the CIP to the rest of the township.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, to Bridget, I think a couple of years ago you put together a pretty good package.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely going to need something to that effect again.
For sure.
Like,
Okay.
For this committee, for sure.
Yeah.
But as you know, there's a little bit of contention going on in council about the CIP program going forward. So I think that we just need to have some of that kind of highlighted.
Reminder.
Yeah, because I don't know whether this committee is all that aware, but I mean, there's kind of a push to move that CIP program away from Millbrook to the greater township, maybe alternating in different years, maybe not. Like, it's all kind of up in the air. So so we really need to kind of, hone in on this and find out whether, there is a benefit to it, what that benefit is, the tangible side of that benefit, and it just makes, and honestly, it makes my job a lot easier of making the pitch for this money, when we have that sort of information at our fingertips and we can prove it worthwhile. Yeah. I know it's a lot on you, Bridget, and I apologize, but.
No. And it's just updating the presentation that was given to this committee and to council, I think probably a year or two ago.
And I get it, because looking at it right now, like as a proponent of the program, I think it's fantastic. But if I'm not for this program, I'm looking at going, there's a whole lot of money sitting there not getting used. Why are we doing it?
Well, and that's the short answer to that is COVID-19. So
and
yeah.
I think we just have to tell that story.
Yeah, and I think if we take a step back, yeah, there is a lot of contention. But I think in part it's because of the success of the Millbrook CIP that council's kind of paid attention and said, maybe this is something the rest of the businesses outside of the township can benefit from, and we can see a real positive economic impact from it. So I think we can't lose sight of that.
No, it's all positive.
No.
And
I'm
I'm
not
trying
suggesting.
all I'm trying to say is it is a lot of money that we put into this program.
Yeah.
A lot of it looks like it's still sitting on the table. And then that's to go back and ask for more while there's that much still on the table becomes more and more difficult to do.
Yeah. I recognize that.
Okay. That's where I was going.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could wave a magic wand and
Make people spend money.
well, it's not that. It's they're more than willing to spend money. They're just held up in getting people to do their projects. They're considered smaller scale projects, realistically, for the contractors that they've hired. So when COVID hit, it backed everything up, as we all know. And, I realize that, we're 2 years in, but that's the impact. We were shut down for a year and a half. Yeah, for 2 years. So
one more suggestion on there, Bridget, is I know within the rules of the CIP, we ask for like a number of quotes, and that's the piece that people keep coming back to me saying they're struggling even just to get people to quote.
Yeah,
I don't know whether we have flexibility on that or not as well.
And we have been flexible with that, Ryan. We have. So if somebody comes to me and says, it's a unique project, there's really only one or two vendors. And even if there is one, as long as I've seen that they've attempted to try and reach out to get somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to them. Yeah, I just
and say I can't find two. Right?
and I say, show me that you've at least tried, because a lot of them have tried and they just don't get a response.
Right.
So I say to them, show me that you've tried, show me what you have, and we'll work with you. So we are flexible. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we want to see them spend this money and be successful. So we try not to create an impediment by being too picky.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, okay.
Okay. Actually, that was a very helpful exchange, I think, especially for me always, but for the new people as well. So it gives a sense of what the kind of dynamic quality of the present situation and the political reality as well. So thank you for that.
I think Cindy has a question. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. No. Yes. Go ahead.
I do have a quick question, more for clarification, just so that listening to the conversation. What if we created a report or the spreadsheet or the presentation, and it was very, very detailed? So 2019, this is what we've received, this is what we've paid out, these are the completed projects, these are the non-completed projects. Then we do 2020 and we break it down as clear as that, so that listening to Councillor Huntley, this is probably going to be something we're going to need to have for our budget discussions as well from the ECD side. So maybe we go not just 8 applications, like for 2019, it would be 8 applications and 5 of them are completed, 2 of them are outstanding, like that deep of a dive, because I think then it will give us a better understanding. Listening now, it looks like the 14,650 is still sitting there when really it's not in 2019. We know that, right? We know that some of it's already been earmarked, some of it's already been paid out. So it will give it a little more understanding as to why the money's being held, not just COVID-19. I think people are done hearing it that it was COVID-19. And I'm not saying that it wasn't, it was, we know it was, but if we can sort of show that it didn't stop it, it just sort of slowed the process down. But these ones were able to get completed and these ones are still kind of in limbo.
Yeah, and the report that was...
Oh, sorry, Bridget. I don't mean to talk over you there.
That's okay.
I was going to say, I think that's perfect, Cindy. I think I don't think we have to go down to the detail of the individual applications themselves, but just look at them on at an annual level, the number of them, number completed, that sort of thing. I think
And I
that
think-
you have that template.
Yeah, we did get that level of detail. We didn't say individual, but we did say there's X number of projects still outstanding in that report that went to council.
Yeah.
So our big flagship project was the Millbrook Cathedral, because that was a huge project for ETA. And so that was responsible for a significant investment. So yeah, but we did get that level of detail. So it's just a question of adding to the other two programs.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this item? Yes, Councillor Huntley.
Again, I'm so sorry to
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, you're at your limit. Sorry.
all right. Well, so what I'm seeing then is if this is our 2022 proposed budget, then we've taken our $4,000 budget from last year and now we're asking for $1,600. Is that how I would read this then, Bridget? Like that's all we're asking for is $1,600? We have
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, plus your 2,500 for your signage, right? Are you factoring in your signage?
okay, and then the signage on top.
Yeah, yeah.
So we don't really have any work projects then slated for next year, other than like we're not going to do the work for the cemetery restoration, right? Like that's like is this? I think
You've got your heritage bylaw update
Yeah.
and your mural projects. Those are your key projects, and I think your bylaw update is going to be fairly significant.
right.
But
So I think we put out there, a couple meetings ago, we asked people to kind of brainstorm whether they saw any other projects on the horizon. I know, Peter, you've done a fantastic job on the Dial Monument. And I guess, I think a lot of that heavy lifting's done now, but is there anything else? This is our shot, right? Like if we want to have a work project, this is kind of where we need to get it in now. I mean, it's not to say it doesn't change before the final budget's approved, but the more advanced warning we can give, the better the chances of it getting through. And I guess I'll throw out one that a number of people have approached me about, and that is, cleaning up and doing something around the artesian well that's by the mailboxes on King Street, rather than having just a standpipe with concrete blocks around it. Maybe doing something a little bit more decorative and a little bit more, appealing. So that was one suggestion that I've had from several people, actually.
there's a shelter there, right?
Not the shelter's there. I'm talking about
Yeah.
the actual water pipe itself.
The pipe that comes out of the ground.
No. I'm just thinking
Yeah,
something
I
you
mean,
could tie into that.
from like old style horse troughs to European statues. So I mean, like there's a pretty broad spectrum of what could potentially be done. So I don't know whether this committee wants to put some thought into addressing that or doing something to it other than just the pipe coming out of the ground with a couple of bollards to keep people from knocking it over.
We could make it into a miraculous shrine where people get the water and are healed or something. Could get them to come to Millbrook for that reason. Sorry. But no, I think that's a good point, Ryan. I never even thought about that. So
I think the timing of the budget, and maybe Cindy, you can jump in and help me with this. So we've done our first initial meeting, and then I'm not sure if we would hit the first draft, but we might be able to hit the second draft. Is that correct? Cindy?
Through you, Chairman Ross to Bridget, yes, I would say that's exactly what we need to do. If there's any special projects, draft one will be submitted as is, and then we'll come and we'll do our presentation as we have historically, that these are the new projects or initiatives that we would undertake. I'm going to guess that 9.2 will probably end up falling into that unless we can get those signs approved today and get that money spent today or spent in 2021, which would be great. If not, that signage would probably roll into one of our projects. I think this committee has been very passionate about the mural, so that is a big focus, and maybe that's something that we could hone in on. The sign or the potential display case, I think, is another great idea as well. If we get our ducks in a row about that, presenting that as an option. The artesian well, I don't know how that all works, who owns that property, or I believe we own it, but how that all works, we can definitely, if that's a project or a position that we want to move forward with, we can definitely talk about that. That might be in collaboration with your parks and facilities budget as well, being that it's their area. But Bridget's right, draft 1 has been submitted. So this is where we leave that, and then we go and we do our presentation for anything over and above that at the first draft budget meeting, which I can pull that date. I don't have it at my exact fingertips.
Yeah, and that was my point.
Yeah.
Was that, you know, we're running out of time. If there's more we want to think about and do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we do think of ideas, is it possible to submit them over email after this meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Sorry, through Chairman Ross, I missed the question. I was just checking the date.
Can suggestions be submitted via email for, or is that allowed, Cindy?
I think that where we would present next would be the December 9th special meeting. I think if we have anything above what we've already asked, I can confirm that in the conclusion of this meeting with the Director of Finance and the CAO, but I believe that our draft is in, and now we go, and if there's any additional asks, is at the first special meeting on the 9th of December.
So through you, Chair, Ms. Page, I think your question was, if you come up with some ideas, can you share them with this group and this group, the next meeting?
Yes, yeah, definitely the group.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
I believe the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
good.
we're not
Okay.
directly advancing business. It's just an afterthought. So I think we're okay with that. What we would do then is just add it to our next meeting, because that will give us time for preparation for the December 9th meeting. So if there's another idea, definitely please feel free to send it.
And we'll get it on the agenda
Mhm.
for the next meeting, I guess. Okay. All right. Can we move on from 9.1 then? I hearing no objection. I guess we can.
Well, I guess before we move on,
Yes.
like the suggestion of I don't know, do we want to discuss the suggestion of something going on? Like, where do we leave it?
Oh, good question. Well, it's an open question then. How do people feel about this this idea of doing something with the water spout? I've actually never even looked at it. It's just like a spout coming out of the ground.
Yeah, it's just like a 2-inch pipe with water coming out of it.
There's not even a tap or anything. It's just
well, you can't tap because it's free.
It's of course it's a artesian well.
Yeah.
Or a well anyway. So
it literally just spills out of the pipe and runs down the ground into the ditch. And it's used a lot. Like, there's always people there filling containers and doing things with it. And those are the people who are saying, there's places, I guess, like people talk about Uxbridge, and Uxbridge has a similar artesian well, and they've done it a lot more appealingly.
Decoratively.
That's the word. Thank you. Anyway, so I don't know, what do we go ahead, Karen? Sorry, Chair.
No. We'd like to have a discussion now. It's fine with me. Anybody feel free to.
I just had a question through you, Chairman Ross, to
Yeah.
Councillor Huntley. Is it signed though that it's not really to be encouraged to be used for drinking water?
I think there's a sign there that says we don't test it.
Okay, because I think so. If I could be so bold as to suggest that we might want to check out what the municipal responsibilities might be around that. Like, I'm not saying I object to anything you're saying at all, but I would just like to
so before
kind
we
of batten down the hatches before we encourage people to come and yes.
Yeah. No, absolutely fair.
Okay. So staff will check that. Would we like to ask staff to check that out? Is that our will?
I would think so.
Okay. So we don't need do we need a motion on that, Cindy?
Karen, are you able to speak with Kyle and staff about that and report back, or will you take that baton, or where do we want to go from here?
I can certainly take that baton because it is a source water protection area as well. So I will do my very best to see what I can find out.
Okay, let me know if I can help out in any way, Karen.
So so we're moving forward with this right now with staff looking into any health/legal
It might be a non-starter, I think, is
Yeah.
where.
other implications. Okay. Okay, so is that okay for now, Councillor Huntley, in terms of the
Yeah,
pushing this on?
See where we can go.
Okay, good. Any other input on this particular issue? Idea?
I just wanted to say that this is, I agree that this is something that we could potentially address, and there's an area of opportunity here once the risk has been assessed, whether there is, if this is water that we could use, is it drinking water, is it not drinking water? And then once that level of risk is assessed, if we decide to go through with it and build something, whether that's a fountain, whether it's decorative or something that people can actually use. Where I'm from the former Yugoslavia, we've had these natural spring water fountains for hundreds of years. And it's something that becomes a heritage sort of monument over time. And if this is a natural spring water sort of well, where it's just coming free flowing, I think there's an opportunity there to make this into a historical monument. But once the risk has been assessed, then we take it and we figure out the best way to approach the project.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Now you can move on. Feel free.
Time to move on. Oh, thank you. Okay, moving
on.
on to item 9.2, signage for Springville, Ebenezer, and Dale Parquet. We've touched on this, but Karen?
Thank you, Chairman Ross. Just to be clear, the draft wording before you that was attached to the agenda just pertains to the markers at the DL Parquet. So there's no information here related to Springville or to Ebenezer. If that's something that the committee is interested in pursuing, we can certainly put that on the work program. But what you see before you today reflects the markers that are in place on the pyramids in the DL Parquet. So this wording was reviewed by the committee, I believe in September of 2019. And the minutes, I kind of felt that we had kind of nailed it down and it was a done deal, but then I think there's some uncertainty. And then when Peter and I were talking about a number of things earlier this summer, the signage came up. So it's being presented again to the committee to have a look at. If we can agree on the wording, then I think, Peter, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm going to, unless you pipe up, that Peter is prepared to help us get the signage made in 2021 and we could get it installed.
That's great. I mean, I personally thought the wording was good. I can't vouch for the historical accuracy of it, but I'm assuming that based on the notes that the proper research was done, so it's as accurate as can be. And jump in here, Peter, or anybody else, because it seemed. As a retired English teacher, it seemed well written to me. So, any response?
Bridget,
Yes.
or excuse me,
Carry on.
oh, Karen. Sorry, Bridget. Karen.
Yes, Peter, I'm listening.
All right. I thought we were going to have, or had a discussion, excuse me, about the copy for the small plaques that were to go on the markers. And I think we have to decide that we either are or we aren't going to put those on. And I'm under the impression we were not going to put them on. If you can clarify that.
Okay, through you, Chairman.
Yeah, so you've lost me here, and I'm sure other people on the committee. So if that clarification would be helpful.
Okay, through you, Chairman Ross. So we did talk about signage. We had draft wording presented, and as I previously indicated, I thought we had kind of nailed it down, and then the whole signage project never got implemented because COVID-19 and things got held up. So I had thought the committee had decided that we were going to add signs for the individual markers. If we just want the DL Parkette sign, that's a decision that the committee can make. I would just suggest that we make a decision and so we can all move on.
Yeah.
So Bridget, one of the problem, sorry, Bridget, geez, I got you on my mind. Karen, one of the reasons we talked about not putting the signage on the individual markers was because the markers had been cleaned. And it posed a bit of a problem with what we were going to put on and putting them on against the new clean markers. What was going to go on originally was to blend in with the original markers. Now the markers are clean. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just we have to rethink these signs. I think we should rethink them.
Through you, Chairman Ross. Okay, so I'm a little confused, Peter, because I guess I thought we were going to have one main sign of the DL Parkette, kind of close to the entrance, and then close to the pyramids, we were going to have a small sign that was placed like kind of in front of the pyramid or on a side of the pyramid that spoke to the markers that were on that pyramid. So there, if I'm mistaken, please clarify. I'm happy to work with you or anyone else on the committee to implement the decision, but let's just make a decision.
Well, there's supposed to be one sign coming into the parkette on the first garden, and then a second sign over by the bushes where it indicates a possible entrance into the bush where the church was. Those were the two main signs. These other signs that we're talking about putting on the markers is a different issue.
Okay, through you, Mitch, through you, Chairman Ross, and maybe, so in the wording before you today, so I think the intention is the DL Parkette wording was the wording that was to go at the entrance to the park, and then the new Connexion Church was the wording that was to go over beside the wooded area. So that means that the proposed signage for Hannah Greer and Martha Might, we'll just dismiss that and move on.
Right.
Sounds right. So is everybody clear on that? That New Connection Church?
There will not be any additional signage added to the markers.
So the Dale Parkette one, Peter, is the proposal is to have it at the entrance of the parkette.
Yes.
Right. And then the other one, as you said, over by the bushes, which doesn't sound great, but it actually is, where we think the church was, the New Connections Church. Okay.
Yes.
And are you happy with the wording?
No.
You're not happy with the wording?
No.
You think it needs more work?
I think I have my own opinion about the wording. I think this is too lengthy. It's got too much detail in it. It's just too much copy for anybody to stand and read.
So
now, I had submitted to Karen other copy. And do you have that, Karen?
Yes, what you submitted to me is what we had previously discussed in 2019. And so I'm sorry if I've misunderstood, but I thought we had moved past that. So I'm happy to do whatever the committee directs. If you want less information, we'll pare it down.
Okay, well, so it seems to me that so there's another version of this that Peter submitted.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So I don't carry on.
I think some of the information in the other version is like it needs to be massaged a little bit. So I'm sorry, Peter, but there were some spelling inconsistencies and that kind of stuff. So if it's something you want to look at, I can certainly scan it and we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, because I think it's hard for us as the committee of the whole to do this sort of editing work. So could I suggest that before the next meeting, you and Peter come up with a final draft and then we'll approve it at that time? Does that seem reasonable? Is that okay? Because I don't think we can be an editorial committee here. We're not set up for that as a committee of the whole. But I do agree with Ms. Ellis. I think we want to move on this and get it done. So does that seem reasonable to people? Nod your head if you agree with me. Okay. It's like talking into a vacuum. Okay. So I don't think we need a motion for that, do we, Madam Secretary? Are you there? Yes, you are.
I am here, and through you, Chairman Ross, I see Councillor Huntley has his hand raised.
Oh, sorry, I can't see him. Sorry.
We're trying to follow.
Raised as well.
Councillor Huntley, just if I'm not recognizing you, just speak up, because I'm legally blind, at least with this machine, with this computer. So yes, Councillor Huntley.
I guess my question is there also like some sort of illustrations or anything along with these signs, or is it pure copy? And I don't want to confuse things anymore, but to me, like, you could have as much copy as you want, as long as there's like a picture for somebody else to stare at, right? Like,
No, there's no pictures involved at all on either of the signs.
is it worth investigating? I don't want to delay the process, but I mean, if we're talking about a church that used to be there, wouldn't it be kind of cool to have kind of an artist rendition of the church on a sign?
We don't know what it looked like. We haven't any pictures.
Stencil it with artist rendition.
We have reference to its size, and that's about all.
Okay.
And what was in it. We don't know what the church actually looked like. We know how it was constructed and what it was constructed of. And we know where it was. We know a lot about it, but we don't know what it looked like.
Okay. Well, maybe that suggestion could be part of the final editorial process, and brought back to this committee. Because I say, I don't think we can do that work here.
Okay. Can you give some, through you, Chairman Ross? Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you give some direction? Okay, do people want less words, more words? Just to provide Peter and I some discretion so that we don't have to fight it out, and whoever muscles the other one. So okay, that would be helpful.
That's good. That's a good question.
Just in terms of the photo or what it looks like, I think part of the issue with this is that there's not a lot of great information, and not all of the information that we can find agrees with each other. So it's been a challenging process. So, but direction on how much words you want would be great. And then my second question is, if you want similar wording at Ebenezer and Springville, if you could provide that direction to add that to the work program, that would be appreciated.
Okay, so we have a request for direction.
I'll jump in.
Yes.
Sorry, Ina, I know your hand is up. I don't think it can be too wordy, to be honest with you. Like, I think as long as it makes sense and it's clear, it takes many, make it as long as you want.
People are not going to stand there for 20 minutes and read a whole lot of copy.
It doesn't have to be multiple paged. I don't think it hurts to have much information, because if it doesn't get put down, sorry, Peter, if it doesn't get put down, it'll get lost, right? Like, this is the one shot to do it.
Anna, you had your hand up, I believe. Is that correct? No?
She's on mute.
Thank you so much. I was just curious to know, Chairman Ross, is there a working group dedicated to this? And if so, I would like to volunteer to be a part of it, just to understand some of the scope, also context, because I can't make an informed decision whether or not the copy is appropriate.
Yeah, good point. The working group, I believe, has been Mr. Ramsey and Ms. Ellis. Is that correct? Is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
So, so I think you would be welcome to join them. If
A tiebreaker would be perfect.
yeah, 3 people, 3 heads are better than 2, in my opinion.
As long as you agree with me, we won't have any problem at all.
No, that's
It's good.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it would be super helpful. I'm in communications, and understanding context is great in order to proceed with the approval. And I do apologize. I understand this has been years in the making. Karen, I'm with
This
you
has
around.
been so long, it's getting boring. And
Oh,
this
no.
thing will
Okay.
never get done.
which is why we want to move on it, Peter. So I think that's an
We're
excellent
gonna-
idea.
Yeah, we're gonna move on it very quickly too.
That's the whole idea. So thank you for your offer. And so could this committee leave it with the 3 of you to talk fairly soon and to finalize this, or at least in terms of presenting it to this committee to finally approve? Does that seem reasonable, Ms. Ellis? Here?
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Okay. So, I mean, I'll stick my oar in here briefly. I mean, I think as brief as possible, but it's you don't want to leave out things that are important, and so that give the context so people know what you're talking about. So, but we'll leave that with the subcommittee to deal with, because I don't think this group can do it. Yeah. So, but am I understanding correctly that people are willing, that the subcommittee is willing to come up with a final version of this? Because my impression is that, Peter, you're not happy with this, what's before us. So we have
No, and I'm not happy with the length of time that this has gone on for month after month after month. And every time it gets presented, somebody has a different opinion about what it should be. And then it gets changed. Excuse me, it gets changed and goes back to committee, and we go back through it again. So
I
yes,
think what we're doing here, Peter, is we're giving the 3 of you the carte blanche. What you come back with, we'll either accept it or not, but most likely we'll just accept it because we've entrusted you guys with it.
well, that would be a first, Ryan, and that would be very nice. Because I'm telling you, it's been brought up 15 times by now and shot down and changed.
All right, well, you
And I'm sorry.
bring back something that we can accept, and we're good.
And I'm sorry if I sound a little ticked, because I really am.
Yeah, and I would remind you that this is a public meeting that is being broadcast right now. So I think we have to tone down the temperature a bit, or bring down the temperature a bit. And there is a final opportunity to deal with this and move it on. That's what the committee, I think, is proposing.
Well, then let's change the subject then.
No, I think we have agreed to move with this. Is that correct? Do we need a motion, Cindy?
I don't think
It's
we
just-
need a motion for the subcommittee to move forward, but I do think that we should give direction on the Springville and Ebenezer, as Ms. Ellis has asked for. So perhaps that subcommittee can finalize the DIL. If you feel you have the literature in a position to bring forward with Springville and Ebenezer, we bring that to the next meeting as well. If not, then I think that that's the next work plan or direction that we need to provide for Ms. Ellis and the subcommittee.
Okay, so we have enough.
If I
Go
could
on,
clarify,
yeah.
Chairman Ross, so I'm going to be honest, the workload at this time is extreme. And so I am not going to commit to having Springville and Ebenezer ready for the next meeting, but it will certainly go on the work program if that's what the committee decides.
Okay. So that's the next issue here. Do we want that kept on the agenda? Ms. Ellis has said she can't deal with the next in short order, but do we want to just delay that? Is that what's being
think what
asked?
we need to do, we just prioritize Dial, and we know that Ebenezer and Springville are on the horizon.
Okay.
Don't hold up Dial because of Ebenezer.
Yes.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, so can we leave this now then? Okay, thank you. Moving on then to item 9.3. 1 King Street tree concern follow-up, Ms. Ayat.
Thank you, Chair. So I actually did receive the report from Chris from Public Works through the consultant. I just received it this morning, so I've just had an opportunity to look at it. I haven't really read it in detail, but the long and short of it is the recommendation is because there's 2 trees. If you'll remember. The property in front of Nexicom has the monument. There are 2 trees, one on either side. We had Treescape, an arborist, look at the trees. Nexicom had kind of made us aware that they didn't think that the trees were doing well. The arborist confirmed that. One tree, he is recommending that we remove it and replace it with a species more conducive to the site conditions. The other tree, he's also recommending we remove. However, he did say it could be preserved. He had said if the tree is retained, it will need to be pruned for deadwood, and the majority of gypsy moth egg masses should be scraped away and disposed of off-site, obviously, to minimize the inevitable attack in the 2022 growing season. He recommended that given the location of the planting site and the limited planting space available, the recommended native species would either be leaf linden or native red maple. He did say if you wanted to introduce a non-native species, that either an eastern redbud or a London plane tree would be good choices. So he said you have to take into consideration the soil structure and investigate if amending the soil is necessary after the current stumps have been removed. So they would grind them out prior to planting. So I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. Obviously, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting because Public Works essentially will be leading the project. It will potentially be kind of a hot button with the community because the treescape downtown has always been, I think the general thought is that it's been kind of minimal. So these are 2 very significant trees and they're located right beside the monument, but inevitably we can't, nothing lasts forever. So I think from this committee, we could put forward suggestions to Public Works as what our wishes would be for replacement trees.
Thanks very much, Bridget. So do people have suggestions that we might put forward in terms of particular trees? So linden was mentioned, red maple, and what were the others?
So your native species would be leaf linden, little leaf linden, or native red maple. Those would be your native species. If you wanted to plant non-native species, you could do a London plane tree or an eastern redbud. And
Okay.
Cindy, I have the report, so don't worry about trying to capture all of this. I can send it over to you.
You can
Just in
see me
case.
describing here, can you? Just a quick follow-up quickly. Was that 2 arborist reports or only 1, Bridget?
It's only 1,
okay,
but it's on 2 trees.
Okay.
So we evaluated 2 trees.
So at the last meeting, one of the requests was, or I felt the way it was captured in the minutes, is that 2 arborist reports were going to be brought forward so that there was a comparison. It wasn't just 1 arborist report.
So Nexicom did one as well. So I think what Wayne was thinking is that he would take theirs and ours would be an updated version, was I think what his plan was.
Thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
So in fact, there had been 2, this is the second opinion.
Yeah.
Chairman Ross, may I recommend that we begin by agreeing on whether to preserve that 1 tree or not? begin there, and then secondly, to recommend the type of tree if we decide to replace or when if we replace both or one.
Yeah, well, that's a good suggestion. And you know, remembering that it's simply a recommendation, correct? This because this is private property that Nexcom can do what they like, but we're making recommendations. Am I correct in that assumption? Or do we have some
It's our property.
say?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, it is our property. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's a different kettle of fish. Okay, great. I'm glad you clarified that. Okay, so that's very helpful. So in terms of, do we want to retain the one tree that is not fatally diseased? And so is there general consensus that that tree should be kept?
I think Ashley wants to jump in there, Chairman.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you. Go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you, Chairman Ross. Yes, so I was going to note, I know that this property is designated. So as it being a designated property, do we have any indication based on the bylaw if the landscape is included in the designation by any chance?
It's a good question. Typically our bylaws are building only.
Okay, that is
but I will
fair.
confirm that. Yeah.
Okay.
I will confirm that. Yeah.
That is fair. Knowing sort of the depth of the bylaws that we use. I guess my next point was going to be from a heritage designation point of view. I definitely believe if there is hope for that one original tree, I think that it should be, there should be an attempt to save it.
Okay.
And then again, because that site or the building is designated, though it doesn't include the trees, I do not think that introducing non-native species is the way to go. I think it should be selected from the two options that are native.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, please, Councillor Hadley.
So I'm in slight disagreement with Ashley on this one in the sense that the trees that are there today are non-native. They aren't the native trees that should be. So I don't think, replacing them with anything like I don't think that's really going to matter based on what's there. But I do believe what is important is that the two trees match each other. So trying to preserve one and then planting another tree would put that whole area out of balance. So I think if the one tree comes down and the other trees, like both trees are sick. I don't know whether people have seen them. And I'm not an arborist by any stretch, but just looking at them, you can tell that they're not the healthiest trees. So if one comes down, I would say the other one should come with it. And we immediately plant whatever it is we're going to plant. And I mean, my preference would definitely be towards the linden tree, which is a native species, not to contradict what I was just saying. But I would say take them both down and go with a linden tree.
I don't agree with you, Ryan.
Yes, Peter, could you address the chair, please? You would like to comment on this? Thank you.
Yeah, I was sorry. I don't agree with you, Ryan. And I agree with Ashley.
Chairman Ross, is it possible to also ask this question in regards to, is there a financial impact if we go either route? So for example, the cost, and if it's even relevant, what the difference would be in preserving the tree or taking it down.
That's an excellent point. Can staff respond to that?
There would be a cost. I don't know what it would be, but I can bring that back to the committee. There obviously would be the cost of removal if that's the option. We can look at it through the lens that if we look at taking both trees down, removing them, replacing them, versus taking one tree down and preserving the other, taking one tree down, replacing it and preserving the others, because there would be a cost to the preservation. So I'm happy to get that breakdown for you, Anna, and bring it back to the committee if that helps make the decision. In terms of budget, it probably would fall into the public works, depending on how much it is, whether it would be a capital budget item or whether it would be an operating budget item. But it would be.
believe, Bridget, they have budget for both. Like they have budget already for tree removal, and they have budget. They
Yeah.
usually have a budget for new trees.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the parks do too, right? Yeah. So it's just, I have to confirm to make sure that they've actually captured it in the budget. That would be my only concern, that when we go to actually do the work that, I get told, oh, we didn't get budget for that. Well, so I just want to make sure it's captured in someone's budget.
So just let me be clear, because I'm a bit confused. So our role is to make a recommendation based on, well, what we would like. So in terms of,
yeah,
and then it wouldn't come out of our budgets. It would come out of parks, probably Parks and Rec.
Through you, Chair, that, yeah, it would come either at a Public Works or Parks.
Public Works.
I think given the work that you've done in terms of downtown revitalization, streetscape design guidelines, they, staff would be looking for the committee to make a recommendation. And, that way we can take, when we go to council there would have to be a report to council. We can say, we've consulted with the Municipal Revitalization Heritage Advisory Committee, and this is their comments and recommendations.
And so the final decision would be council's in terms of what to do.
I believe so, yes.
Right. Okay. So really, we're an advisory committee, and so that's our role.
Yeah.
So again, it sounds like there are different opinions. We've heard some of them. So I don't honestly see how we can make a decision right now. If there's,
through you, Chair, if it would help, I can read what the observations were from the consultant, that the state of the trees.
Okay.
If that helps, it's technical, but you guys may understand it better than me. But he did note that he said there was girdled roots, significant frost cracks along the main stem extending up the main central leader. There's I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but I think it's Utapella canker at the top of the stem on the south side. The majority of primary and secondary branches affected by the longitudinal frost cracks and Utapella. And it says the dieback throughout the crown. Suspected denuding of foliage during the 2021 growing season from the gypsy moth. Significant number of moth egg sacs were scattered throughout the tree. They noticed that the tree was previously pruned for large deadwood. One of the trees was pruned for large deadwood. There's extensive powdery mildew on the leaves. And just noted, condition of both trees will only deteriorate over time. I don't know if that helps.
Just for my own records, what's the name of the arborist?
Treescape.
Oh, that's the company. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Well, sounds pretty awful, doesn't it? Okay. So is that helpful to people in terms of perhaps we can make a decision now? I don't know. It's there, but there does seem to be a division in the ranks in terms of what direction to take. Though it sounds like the one tree has to go. The question that I'm hearing is potential question is, should both go and matching set be planted? But there's a division of opinion on that. So,
and I don't know if you have to make your decision today. I think we do have some time with this. I imagine Wayne's probably not going to be looking to do the work until the spring. So obviously just, from his standpoint, he'd be looking if he needs to capture it in his budget, but.
Miss Iad, through you, Chair.
Sorry, I'm missing hands. I'm looking. so Councillor Huntley, but I think Ashley might have been ahead of you. I'm sorry about that. It's Ashley. No, it's just my fault because I can't see. Okay, Ashley, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say through you, Chair, could the arborist reports be circulated? And those that are interested take some time to read through, because, just at an initial conversation, once we read through, and if, the recommendation is definitely one to come down, which I'm in agreement based on the initial discussion. But once we read through and understand essentially what are the chances, even if they do the protection plan for the second tree, it, from a logical standpoint, it might make more sense for it to come down.
Yeah.
But that it's a big decision just to, provide a recommendation to cut down a mature tree based on, 5 minutes of discussion through Zoom.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
my preference would be, who is interested, take a look through, and then could this be depending on timeline, could this be an item for our next meeting?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point. Councillor Huntley, you had a point too?
Yeah, so my only point would be, in terms of when the trees should come down, I mean, they are absolutely littered with gypsy moths. So I would assume they'd be coming down before the hatch season.
Which is when, Ryan? Sorry to be
They're May.
not knowledgeable about this at all,
Yeah,
but
May is kind of when they have.
are they? Okay.
But I personally think it's an excellent idea to have the arborist report circulated to the committee, and those who are interested could read it carefully and think about this, about the pros and cons, and because it does sound as though if both trees are, the one tree is going to go eventually anyway. So it's sad, but sounds like what's happening. So
I'd recommend people go see the trees. I don't know whether they've lost their foliage yet, but I mean, if you can get to them before they've dropped their leaves, then it'll give you a pretty good indication of what they look like today.
Yeah.
And sorry, Chair, if I could just jump in.
Please.
My other note, just because I often deal with this in demolition permits, is there any obligation in regards to the size and maturity of the tree that would be replaced? Because, if we're thinking, like, depending on if there is any requirements, are there certain parameters of the size of tree that needs to replace what will be taken down because of the size that is being cut down? That might too make a difference as well, because if we know, yes, a large mature tree is going to replace a larger deteriorated tree, that might, help people make a decision versus, just like a small 6-foot tree that will take 35 years to, be significant.
Through you, Chair, sorry, just to.
No, go ahead.
So Wayne and I did talk about that. So I think his idea would be that due to the maturity of the tree and, how big it is, I think his preference would be to try and replace it with something as big as he could get.
Okay.
So just to kind of minimize the, you don't want it to be really stark and have just a little seedling there. So I think his preference would be to get something that is as mature as he can get.
Okay. Sorry, just to jump in there again.
No, please do.
When you circulate the arborist report, could you note, approximately what size of tree would be available? And I think once you have all that information, we can make a really informed and, sympathetic recommendation.
For sure.
And just, if I can jump in, just in terms of past practice, the maple trees that were replaced on Ann Street, for the ones that were taken down and the new ones, they're good sized trees. And I think, Councillor Huntley, you were involved in that process, weren't you?
Yeah.
So that we have evidence that the township takes this issue, at least in the past, has taken this issue seriously. So, and I think in that case, there were 3 opinions. Karen, is that correct? Do you remember in terms of arborists looking at the trees on Ann Street? I think there was three arborists and they all gave opinions. So is that true? To your recollection?
I'm sorry, Chairman Ross, I don't know that because that was a public works project.
Right. Okay. So I somehow thought you were involved, but anyway, the process seemed very transparent, planted to replace the maples that were taken down. So that's a good point. Okay. So
for you, Chairman Ross, can I just seek clarification? Do you, or is the committee looking for staff to still bring back a financial report that kind of outlines what the dollars are attached, or are we content with circulating the arborist reports and then staff will just come back, or the committee can just report back to staff and then we'll bring our general consensus of what the committee has provided us to the next meeting?
My understanding, but correct me if I'm wrong, committee, is that we're just trying to decide on an approach. We're not worried about cost at this point or whose budget or anything like that. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman Ross. I think that's helpful to know that it's not coming out of our budget.
But at least as far as we know at this point. Okay, is that true? Everybody all right with that? Oh, okay, so staff will circulate the arborist report to members of this committee for us to read and meditate on. So, okay, can I move on to item 9.4? So the work plan, which you should have a copy of. Nice to see that a lot of things have been completed. Thank you to the people that were so diligent in terms of getting those things completed. So, so item 1, the Dale Parkett landscaping, is considered completed. The planter boxes completed. Again, big thank you to Peter and his helpers. Number 3, the Dale Monument, we already heard about, I believe. So we're waiting a quote on that. Anything to add to that? No, okay. Review and update current heritage, number 5. Oh no, sorry, I've jumped over one. Springville and Ebenezer, the cemetery restoration, we've already alluded to that. So I don't think there's anything more to say there, is there? Number 5, review and update current heritage bylaws. We've heard about that, so that's a rollover request. Heritage awards, we've heard that Bridget has not received any nominations at this point. Is that correct, Bridget? No nominations?
Yes, that's correct.
So far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it was suggested at our last meeting that people feel free to nominate. I actually have some people I'm thinking of, so I'll try and get that into you. And it was, I think, suggested that the chief building officer also be asked to sort of keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so has he been? Has staff sort of passed on that, or should we approach him?
Truthfully, he's at the end of the office. At the conclusion of this meeting, I will go and harass him. Actually, I'm lying. He's on holidays. So I will nab him on Monday morning. First thing, I'll be the face that greets him.
Okay. Item 7, the mural. We've talked about that, but do we have to talk about it more? I think not, because we're waiting for the red funding, correct? So it's on hold because of that, correct?
Through you, Chairman Ross, can I just double check quickly, Bridget? I had here that it was matching funds, and I missed what you had said before. I know it's $2,100. So is it a percentage? What do I put here now just to update this slide? Because I had
70-30.
70-30. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
No problem.
all right, and
Actually, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm looking at papers here. Carry on.
For the mural, like David and Bruce were kind of on that subcommittee. I don't know whether, like, obviously David's not on this committee anymore. So do we need to kind of revisit who's working on the mural?
Yeah, and that's right. Poor old Bruce is not, really that well, and Peter's off the hook. But we have to do something. It's. But can we do anything right now? That's where I was confused last go round. It sounded like, and as I recall, Councillor Hannah, you were saying and other people were saying we've got to keep moving on this because, what if the property, the Tinney property sells? That's going to complicate matters. There's all these things that we have to move on, and so but nothing seems to be happening. So I have to confess, I don't know. Peter, yes, go ahead.
I would like to have a meeting with Bridget on this subject, and not now.
Me or Karen?
Yeah, do you mean Bridget or Karen?
No, I like you now, Bridget.
Oh, thank you. Sorry,
Okay.
Karen. You're
I
in
just pushed Karen over there.
yeah, she got shoved to the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I would like to have a meeting with you on this subject.
Okay.
So it's being, okay,
Quickly.
carry on.
No, I'm
I've-
just,
Truthfully, I've been kind of the money girl in terms of applying for funding, but I haven't been up to speed on the actual project. So I'm not sure how, but I'm happy to help, whatever you want.
I mean, it just seems to me like we're kind of stuck and, you know, we want to move ahead, but
Mhm.
the committee that was to take over from Peter, one person has left our committee and the other one is not physically well. So it's,
Yeah.
we're stuck. But we've got to do something. So I'm at a loss myself, honestly. Anybody want to help me out here, Councillor Huntley?
I think to start with, like before we do anything, I think we have to make a decision as a committee. Do we keep it where it is, or do we just move it knowing we'll inevitably have to move? Right? Or maybe it won't inevitably have to move. But I think that's the first decision-making step in this whole thing.
Yeah, I think in terms of the funding, what I put in the application was I kept it kind of vague in terms of whether we were going to keep it in the current location or whether we were going to look to move it. I think I did said that was under discussion and that the funds would cover the material costs, if this helps with your discussions.
Yeah.
So which I believe like included, I think we had to get an artist rendering and get a photo and the materials to actually put it on, that sort of stuff. So I think in terms of the,
I think that those are all things that are down one path, right? Like, I think we have to make a decision on whether does it stay or does it go?
yeah, definitely. Well, if it goes, then
You
we
just
pulled-
put it on.
you wouldn't use the funding. Yeah,
Right. I think that's the first decision.
for sure.
But sorry, Councillor Andy, but my understanding is that we had decided we were going to go with this. Like we had the discussion, and that you know, we all felt strongly we wanted this to proceed, whatever kind of path it goes on, or however it is materializes. Didn't we have that discussion already?
That was my understanding. I thought you wanted to keep it. You just
Yeah.
weren't sure about where to put it.
It's all it's the moving forward. Do we have to vote on that again in terms of we want it at all? I mean, I thought we decided that. I'd have to go back and reread other minutes, but help me out, someone. Am I remembering this correctly?
Well, I think the preference is to keep it where it is. The question has always been the variable of the Tinney property, right?
Yeah, but my understanding in terms of having it in some form or other, we are behind that. We want to preserve it somehow or other.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Okay, that's okay. I was confused then. I thought that's what you were questioning.
No.
Whether to keep it at the Tinney, next to the Tinney property on the present building, to, you know, what the exact way to deal with it, the technicalities around that, and the kind of property issue. That's what we have to move forward on, and we're kind of stuck in the mud, right? Am I wrong on that? We seem to be. So Peter has suggested a meeting. Was it with Karen or Bridget? I can't remember. Or both.
Me.
With Bridget.
Yep.
I'm starting to feel as that we need another person to be part of that. Someone who's willing to do some of the running around that will be necessary, because staff, you know, doesn't have the time to do everything. So if no one else, is anybody interested in being part of that discussion other than Peter, or in addition to Peter?
through you, Chair. I would like to have that meeting with Bridget
Sure.
before you decide to go any further with it.
Well, that's fine with me.
And I don't think at this point we should get anybody else involved in it until Bridget and I have had a discussion.
Okay.
And
That sounds good.
Okay, so
you and I meet, and we'll go over and we'll
bring it right up to date where we are.
Okay.
and we'll
Okay.
bring a report back to the committee in November. How's
That's
that?
my only
Yeah.
concern as chair, is that we're moving somewhere, that we're not just you know, frozen in time. Okay, so that sounds fine to me. The committee, we don't need a vote on that, do we, Cindy? It's just a consensus.
For you, Chairman Ross, no, I don't think we need to vote, but I just want to make sure that everybody is clear. You have reiterated it, that this project has received funding. We've applied for red funding, so something will be done with the mural. I don't want anyone to feel that we're going to not move forward with this in some way, shape, or form. So I just want to make sure that when Peter and Bridget meet, that is not the end result of this. This committee, as well as council, has submitted financially and physically committed physically and financially to move forward with this project. So I just don't want
Just
it to
for-
not forward.
Yeah,
that-
just for clarification though, we've applied for the funding for the $2,100. We haven't received it, but you have allocated 7,000 to it. So yeah, regardless, you've committed funds. It's just,
Okay,
you might have a little extra in the pot.
good. Okay, that's
Before
good. That's
accepted.
my main concern, that it's going to go ahead. All right. So back to the work. Can we leave that for now? And the next item on the work plan is where am I? I've lost my place. Okay, number 8. So we alluded to that earlier, the CIP and the rollover. Item 9, it's the same thing. It's underway. It's a rollover. And item 10 is the same thing. So
Can I jump in through you, Chair?
please-
and just
please
see
do.
if anybody would be interested in sitting on the committee. We do have our first meeting Monday morning at 9, so I can send you the details. It will be by Zoom. We're still being encouraged to meet virtually, but we do have our first meeting. There's probably only going to be 6 meetings in total between now and March. So the majority of them will kind of it'll be front-ended, just so people have an idea of the timing commitment. We'll have more between now and December than we will December and March, but certainly from a heritage standpoint, throughout the township, it would be good to have someone from the committee sitting on it, just to have that voice at the table.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested.
You got my regrets.
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Sorry about that, but
That's
These hands that I see raised.
I'm looking for hands. Anybody? Is there a hand? Yes,
oh,
Anna. Yes.
I
Are
think
you-
these are
go
all
ahead.
great ideas. No, I think this is a great idea. I would be interested. However, I'm just curious to know in regards to the Zoom. One of the concerns of mine is meeting in person, just in regards to scheduling. Do we know how long we will be meeting by Zoom?
So I'm trying to keep it to an hour. Trying to be sensitive to people's schedules because I know it's hard. It's hard here with staff, so I can only imagine anybody else. So I am trying to keep it just to 1 hour. The public meetings, we have to have a conversation with the consultant as to how they're going to handle that. It'd probably have to be by Zoom, but the public meetings virtually, I find are challenging, but you got to do what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So Bridget, I'm happy to attend that. I don't know whether my capacity as a counselor would inhibit or would be a problem with that, but what do you think?
In all honesty, and Ryan, maybe you can, given the temperature of council, my thought was to keep it to just one representative on the committee on the advisory committee for the township CIP. Keep one member from Mr. Hack. That way the discussion that there's more people outside of Millbrook that are contributing to its development. So right now I have obviously planning staff from the township, Karen, and I have planning staff from the county, Ian Mudd. I also have the manager of corporate services from the county, Karen Jopling. But Karen also is a heavy agricultural background. I have Steve Brackenridge and Norm Lamott, who are both agricultural entrepreneurs. So I think that's really important for us. I have Roman Triple from Fleming Industrial Park. And I have Jim Hux from the Kawartha Downs. I have Braden Clark from Community Futures. And I have Suzanne McCrimmon from Peterborough and the Kawartha's Economic Development. So I think I have a pretty good cross section. Where I would like is to have somebody with a heritage voice, trying to be sensitive to council's concerns. Do you think it's better to keep it just to one person from this committee representing this committee on the TAC?
Well, I think it would, somebody from this committee, and probably, Ina sounds like a great candidate for it, but it sounds like you're actually missing an elected official on your TAC.
So that was my next question. I know Cindy's going to be sitting there wagging the finger at me because I have talked to Yvette about that. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's better to just keep it community minded? And then that way, when you come at it and you're evaluating it, you're getting community input.
Sorry, Bridget, are you asking, is this addressed to Cindy?
Sorry, to Ryan. Yeah.
Or to Ryan, okay.
Yeah, sorry, my apologies. It's just Cindy's like, you got to make sure that you're appropriately represented. So I know Cindy's trying to make me follow the rules. So what's your thought, Ryan?
My thought is, if you want an advocate for it when it actually hits a council, then you should probably have a council member that's well versed in what's going on.
So would that be you? If you want to join the party.
Chairman Ross, on the conversation, I do see Ashley has her hand up. So let's see what.
Thank you. Sorry, Ashley. I didn't. Where are you?
No,
thank you.
That is okay. That is okay. I was just going to suggest, now that we've chatted, I apologize. I've had that email in my box and I've been thinking about it for quite a while, but I'm confirming that it's about an hour meeting, for the next couple of months. I would be willing to volunteer to participate, and it probably makes sense as I've been helping out on the subcommittee with the evaluations of the application. So for the downtown CIPs. So I would volunteer to assist if that is agreeable with the rest of the committee.
Okay, well, my understanding is, thank you very much. You don't need to be approved by this committee. I think Bridget is simply asking for volunteers, and she now has 3 volunteers, which is wonderful. So maybe the discussion would be with her about, the best fit, because she just wants one person from this committee, but you don't need to be approved by us to do this. That's at least my understanding. So could you, the 3 of you that are interested, communicate with Bridget and have a discussion with her? Or is that, Bridget, is that okay?
Yeah, I think Ryan's point that it's prudent to have council representation on the advisory committee. So I'll send out an email to council and see if there's any takers. And recognizing Councillor Huntley, you might be the one I'm hounding to sit on it.
Okay.
And then, what you might want to do, Ashley and Anna, is alternate meetings. That might kind of reduce the timing impact for you, because I know both of you are very busy. So would it make sense to just alternate?
Well, could you work that out amongst yourselves?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And
for sure.
That sounds like a good idea, but probably it's not a committee decision. So great. So, but it's wonderful. Thanks for the offers. I think that's really terrific. Okay. All right. I think we have, as far as I can tell, moved on to item 10, which is my favorite, and adjournment. So a motion to adjourn.
Before you do that.
Oh dear, yes. Speaking something in. Okay. Yes, Councillor Huntley, go ahead, please.
Cindy, don't we need to receive all of this information? I don't think we've received anything today.
There's been a lot of discussion today. There has not been any direction or motion. I think other than the direction that we have, and I will say that I'm very comfortable if we go back to get an actual resolution for 1 King Street, which is ultimately that the arborists are going to be, reports are going to be circulated and that staff's going to provide a report at the next meeting. I think I think we need a motion on that if the chair feels comfortable. We have historically, and we had this conversation at 2 meetings ago regarding the work plan. So really, we have not done any changes to the work plan, so we can receive it for information and get a motion. Absolutely. I love motions. It makes things clear. And if there's any items that we'd like to add at the very end. Is that what you're looking for, Councillor Huntley?
Well, I just meant like, even like, I don't think we received any of the reports. I don't think we received the final budget, like.
No.
So
right.
The final budget itself, we already did that motion when we at
Okay.
the last council meeting. This was just more as an update, just to let you know kind of where we were sitting. We can add a motion if you like that says something along the lines.
You're the clerk.
Yeah, no, honestly, I have what we need for the final budget for that, unless we come back, which I think that's where we've left it, that the team is going to meet to talk about what we're going to do about potential new signage and what we're going to do if we're going to do something about the artesian well, and if we're going to do something about some form of display in the CMCC. So that will be information that we'll have to get back to the committee to determine if we want to go forward with it as the special request when we do the presentation for the next draft.
Okay.
So
So
there's
we're just going to capture that more as just dialogue as opposed to emotion, but we can put that in there because I think a lot of it's quite preliminary right now, depending on if we have the right to do anything with the artesian well, what staff come back with on the CMCC location, and then I think where the appetite is to take signage or review signage for Springville and Ebenezer. I think we do want to add that to our 2022 work plan. I imagine Ms. Ellis will come back and Peter with that, but I think that we want to add. So I think we can definitely have a motion or a motion around 1 King Street, because I do think that we don't want to lose sight of this. I think the arborist report's going to be circulated, and I think we definitely need to make sure we have something to not lose sight of this so that there is a recommendation that goes back to council. But other than that, I think we're good.
Okay.
But so we need a motion now in terms of 1 King Street, or is that what's being suggested?
I think it would be clearer so that it's captured and everybody knows that we're on it. We do have an opinion. Please don't take those trees down until we say something about it. But we want to make sure that those arborist reports have been reviewed and the committee has given a educated and sound response or recommendation.
Okay. So with that, do we have a motion then?
Yes.
The wording?
Mover and seconder.
So
Yeah, I'll move it. It's fine.
Ryan is moving. I was looking for another hand. Ashley is seconding. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley, for staying on the procedures. Warms my heart.
Good. Okay. So we all right? Is that covers it all for now? So there's a lot of stuff that we'll hear about next time, which is good. So, okay. Well, thank you all very much, and see you at the next meeting.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
No, you gotta.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought I'd already done that. Thank you. So a motion to adjourn. I got cut off there. Motion to adjourn. Ashley is moving.
I'll second.
See another hand. Okay. Oh no, we'll give it to somebody else. Give it to Anna Delroy as seconding. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.